Most people don't realize that the root of so many chronic symptoms, persistent fatigue, stubborn weight gain, joint pain, brain fog, and poor immunity can often be traced back to one central problem, a damaged gut lining. When the intestinal barrier becomes compromised, it no longer functions as the intelligent filter it was designed to be. Instead of keeping out harmful substances, it begins to leak partially digested food particles, toxins, and bacterial fragments into the bloodstream. This leaky gut immediately alerts the immune system, triggering a state of chronic low-grade inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation of this kind doesn't just cause local discomfort. It affects every major system. It disrupts hormones, especially insulin and cortisol, making it harder to regulate blood sugar and burn fat efficiently. It impairs thyroid function and alters hunger signals like leptin and ghrelin, driving cravings and energy crashes over time. This inflammatory cascade locks the body into a state of metabolic chaos where fat is stored rather than burned, and the immune system is constantly on high alert. What's crucial to understand is that this isn't just a digestive issue, it's a systemic problem with far-reaching effects. When the microbiome, the community of bacteria that live within us, becomes imbalanced due to poor diet, antibiotics, or chronic stress, it weakens the gut lining even further. Harmful bacteria thrive, beneficial ones decline, and the gut's natural defense system collapses. But here's the encouraging part. By restoring gut integrity and nurturing the right microbes through targeted nutrition and lifestyle changes, we can switch the body out of inflammation and back into repair mode. When that happens, metabolism resets, energy returns, and the body naturally shifts from storing fat to burning it efficiently once again. Leaky gut is not a vague or fashionable diagnosis. It's a physiological process that can be measured, observed, and reversed. The intestinal wall is designed to act as a highly selective barrier. It's made up of a single layer of tightly packed cells known as enterocytes, held together by tight junctions that control what is allowed to pass through into the bloodstream. In a healthy gut, nutrients are absorbed while toxins, microbes, and undigested food molecules are kept out. However, when that barrier becomes damaged or porous, the gut loses its ability to discriminate, allowing unwanted substances to leak through. This is what we call increased intestinal permeability, or leaky gut. This process doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually through a combination of modern lifestyle factors, chief among them poor diet, chronic stress, environmental toxins, and the overuse of certain medications. A diet high in refined carbohydrates, seed oils, and processed foods feeds the wrong kind of bacteria in the gut while starving the beneficial species that protect the lining. Gluten, alcohol, artificial sweeteners, and emulsifiers can all directly damage the mucosal layer that coats the intestinal wall. Over time, the tight junctions loosen, microscopic tears form, and the gut begins to leak. Stress compounds the problem by flooding the body with cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones divert blood flow away from digestion and suppress the immune defenses that maintain the gut lining. Many people live in a constant state of low-level stress, rushing meals, sleeping poorly, multitasking endlessly, and this constant physiological strain weakens the gut barrier further. Add to this the widespread use of antibiotics, NSAIDs and acid-blocking drugs, all of which disrupt the microbiome or erode the protective mucus layer, and it becomes clear how pervasive the problem really is. When the barrier is compromised, the immune system finds itself constantly exposed to foreign substances that were never meant to leave the gut. Fragments of bacteria known as lipopolysaccharides, along with undigested food proteins, cross into the bloodstream and trigger immune alarm bells. The body recognizes these as threats and mounts an inflammatory response. The immune system produces cytokines, chemical messengers that recruit white blood cells and promote inflammation. Initially, this is protective, but when exposure is continuous, the inflammation becomes chronic. Chronic inflammation is the common denominator behind most modern metabolic disorders. It disrupts the function of insulin, the hormone responsible for moving glucose into cells for energy. When insulin signaling becomes impaired, blood sugar rises, and the body compensates by releasing more insulin. High insulin levels, in turn, promote fat storage, particularly around the abdomen. This is visceral fat, the deep inflammatory fat that surrounds internal organs and releases even more cytokines, perpetuating a vicious cycle of inflammation and weight gain. At the same time, inflammation interferes with the thyroid gland and the mitochondria, the tiny energy factories in each cell. Mitochondria are incredibly sensitive to oxidative stress, When exposed to toxins leaking from the gut, their energy output drops. The result is fatigue, slower metabolism, and a body that clings to fat rather than burning it for fuel. Patients often describe feeling tired but wired, craving sugar and caffeine to push through the day, yet unable to lose weight no matter how little they eat. This is not a failure of willpower, it's the biochemical consequence of an inflamed gut and exhausted mitochondria. It's important to recognize that the immune system doesn't exist in isolation. Roughly 70% of it resides in the gut. When the barrier is damaged, the immune system becomes overstimulated, confused, and eventually dysregulated. This sets the stage for autoimmune personalities and chronic fatigue. The liver, too, bears the burden as it must filter the constant influx of bacterial toxins leaking from the gut. Over time, detoxification pathways become overwhelmed, allowing more toxins to circulate and adding to the inflammatory load. Science has now confirmed that leaky gut is not a fringe concept. Studies have shown elevated levels of zonulin, a protein that regulates intestinal permeability, in individuals with obesity, type 2 diabetes, and inflammatory bowel disease. Research also links endotoxemia, the presence of bacterial toxins in the bloodstream, to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. This means that the inflammation driving weight gain often originates not in fat tissue itself, but in the gut. The body is reacting to internal pollution. Healing the gut, therefore, is not just about improving digestion, it's the foundation for restoring metabolic health. When the gut lining is repaired, the immune system can calm down. Inflammation subsides and hormonal balance begins to return. The microbiome, the vast ecosystem of bacteria that inhabit the intestines, plays a crucial role in this recovery. Beneficial microbes produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which nourish the cells of the gut lining and tighten the junctions between them. They also communicate directly with the immune system, teaching it tolerance and preventing overreaction. The first step in reversing inflammation and obesity is to remove the irritants that are perpetuating the damage. This means eliminating processed foods, refined sugars, and inflammatory oils while focusing on whole, nutrient-dense foods that support gut repair. Bone broth, fermented vegetables, and fiber. Rich plants provide nourishment for the gut wall and beneficial bacteria. Adequate protein supplies the amino acids needed to rebuild the mucosal layer. Equally important is managing stress and allowing the body to enter a state of rest and repair. Chronic stress prevents the gut from healing by maintaining high cortisol levels and suppressing the vagus nerve, which regulates digestion. Simple practices like deep breathing, walking in nature, or ensuring quality sleep can make a measurable difference in gut integrity. When these foundational steps are taken, the body begins to shift from inflammation and fat storage toward healing and fat burning. The metabolic machinery restarts, insulin sensitivity improves, and energy levels rise. Fat loss becomes a natural byproduct of restoring internal balance rather than a forced effort of restriction and deprivation. The gut is not merely an accessory to digestion, it is the command center of health. When its lining is strong and its microbial community balanced, the body thrives. When it's damaged, the entire system suffers. By understanding and addressing leaky gut, we target the true root of inflammation, unlocking the body's innate ability to heal and return to metabolic harmony. The human gut is not simply a digestive tube, it is a living, breathing ecosystem that dictates how every system in the body functions. Trillions of microbes, bacteria, fungi, and even viruses live within the intestines, forming what's known as the microbiome. These microorganisms are not passive residents, they communicate directly with the immune system, brain, liver, and endocrine glands. They manufacture vitamins, regulate inflammation, and control how efficiently we extract and use energy from food. When this microbial world is in balance, it supports vitality, stable weight, and mental clarity. When it's disturbed, it drives cravings, hormonal chaos, and chronic fatigue. Healthy gut bacteria play a central role in metabolic regulation through the production of short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, acetate, and propionate. These compounds are created when beneficial microbes ferment dietary fiber in the colon. Butyrate in particular is remarkable. It fuels the cells lining the gut, helping them maintain tight junctions that prevent leaky gut. It also reduces systemic inflammation by calming overactive immune cells and downregulating inflammatory cytokines. Butyrate influences gene expression through epigenetic mechanisms, turning on genes that promote fat burning and mitochondrial efficiency, while turning off those that drive fat storage and inflammation. The effects of butyrate extend far beyond the gut. It improves insulin sensitivity by reducing inflammatory signaling in the liver and muscle tissues. When insulin works efficiently, glucose enters the cells where it's converted into clean energy rather than stored as fat. This process stabilizes blood sugar, prevents energy crashes, and helps maintain steady focus throughout the day. In this state, the body runs like a well-tuned engine, burning fuel efficiently and maintaining hormonal balance. A healthy microbiome also regulates appetite and cravings through chemical messengers that communicate with the brain. Certain bacterial strains produce neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, chemicals that govern mood, motivation, and calmness. About 90% of serotonin, the feel-good hormone, is produced in the gut. When microbial balance is disrupted, serotonin levels drop, leading to irritability, poor sleep, and cravings for quick energy sources like sugar and refined carbs. The brain interprets these cravings as hunger, but in reality, it's the microbiome calling for its preferred fuel. In contrast, dysbiosis and imbalance, where harmful bacteria outnumber beneficial ones, creates a completely different internal environment. This imbalance is often caused by a diet high in sugar, processed foods, alcohol, and artificial additives. Pathogenic bacteria thrive on these modern dietary staples, producing toxins that irritate the gut lining and trigger immune activation. These toxins interfere with leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that regulate hunger and fullness. As a result, the brain receives confused signals, leading to overeating and persistent hunger even after meals. Dysbiosis also amplifies stress responses. Certain harmful bacteria activate the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal HPA axis, the body's main stress circuitry, causing excess cortisol production. Elevated cortisol drives fat storage around the abdomen, increases blood sugar, and suppresses thyroid activity, all of which slow metabolism. The individual begins to feel wired yet exhausted, dependent on caffeine and sugar to function, while the body resists fat burning no matter how much one exercises or restricts calories. One of the most overlooked roles of the microbiome is its ability to detoxify hormones and environmental toxins. Beneficial bacteria help break down and recycle estrogen and other steroid hormones. When these microbes are depleted, estrogen builds up, leading to conditions like estrogen dominance, which promotes fat storage in the hips and thighs and contributes to PMS, mood swings, and fatigue. The gut and liver work together to metabolize these hormones, and when one is compromised, the entire system becomes sluggish. Rebuilding a healthy microbiome, therefore, is one of the most effective strategies for restoring hormonal balance, improving mood, and reigniting metabolic efficiency. The process begins with removing what damages it: processed foods, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and chronic stress, and then nourishing it with the right substrates. The microbiome feeds primarily on fiber from vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and resistant starches. These fibers act as prebiotics, food for beneficial bacteria. As these bacteria ferment the fibers, they produce more butyrate and other metabolites that strengthen the gut wall and calm inflammation. Fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and yogurt introduce live beneficial bacteria into the gut. These probiotics help crowd out pathogenic species, rebalance microbial diversity, and restore the production of key neurotransmitters. For some individuals with severe dysbiosis or chronic illness, targeted probiotic supplementation may be useful, but it should always be paired with the foundational work of diet and lifestyle change. No supplement can compensate for a poor diet or chronic stress. Equally important is the role of sleep and circadian rhythm in maintaining microbial balance. The gut microbiome operates on a 24-hour cycle, influenced by light exposure, meal timing, and sleep quality. Disrupted sleep patterns or late night eating disturb microbial metabolism, leading to imbalances that affect insulin sensitivity and fat storage. Prioritizing consistent sleep, exposure to natural light in the morning, and eating within a regular time window helps synchronize the gut brain axis and optimize hormone regulation. Physical activity also supports microbial diversity. Moderate exercise increases the abundance of butyrate, producing bacteria, and enhances gut motility, which prevents bacterial overgrowth. The key is consistency rather than intensity. Gentle, regular movement such as walking, cycling, or yoga nourishes the microbiome just as effectively as it strengthens the body. From a biochemical perspective, the microbiome acts as a metabolic organ in its own right. It extracts energy from food, regulates inflammation, and modulates hormone signaling. When it's healthy, it acts as an ally, helping maintain stable blood sugar, balanced mood, and lean body composition. When it's imbalanced, it becomes an adversary, producing toxins, amplifying stress responses, and promoting fat storage. This explains why two people can eat the same diet and have completely different results. The difference lies in the state of their microbiome. Restoring microbial balance is not a quick fix, but a gradual recalibration. Each meal either nourishes or depletes this inner ecosystem. Every night of sleep, every period of stress, every medication influences which species thrive or decline. Over time, the gut adapts to the environment it's given. A diet rich in natural, unprocessed foods paired with mindful eating, stress management, and consistent sleep cultivates an environment where beneficial bacteria flourish. When that balance is restored, something remarkable happens. Cravings diminish because blood sugar stabilizes. Energy becomes consistent because mitochondria are producing fuel efficiently. Hormones like insulin, cortisol, and thyroid hormones synchronize, and the body moves naturally toward a healthy weight. The gut microbiome, once ignored, emerges as the hidden conductor orchestrating hormonal harmony, metabolic precision, and emotional balance. Inflammation lies at the heart of almost every modern metabolic disorder, from obesity and diabetes to chronic fatigue and cardiovascular disease. It is the body's defensive mechanism designed to neutralize threats and repair tissue damage. However, when inflammation becomes chronic and unrelenting, as it does when the gut barrier is compromised, it begins to sabotage the very systems it was meant to protect. The most critical of these is metabolism, the complex network of biochemical reactions that governs how the body converts food into energy. When inflammation interferes with this network, the body shifts from fat burning and energy production to fat storage and energy conservation. The connection between inflammation and metabolism begins in the gut. When the intestinal lining becomes permeable, bacterial fragments such as lipopolysaccharides leak into the bloodstream and are recognized by the immune system as foreign invaders. In response, the immune system releases inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha, IL-6, and CRP. These molecules circulate throughout the body, affecting every tissue they encounter. In small, short-lived bursts, this response is useful, but in a state of chronic exposure, it disrupts insulin signaling at the cellular level, leading to what is known as insulin resistance. Insulin is the hormone that unlocks the cell's door, allowing glucose to enter and be converted into ATP, the body's usable energy currency. When cells become resistant to insulin's signal, glucose accumulates in the bloodstream. The pancreas compensates by releasing even more insulin, attempting to force glucose into resistant cells. Over time, these persistently high insulin levels lock the body into a fat storage mode. Instead of burning fat for energy, the body stores it, especially around the abdomen, where visceral fat becomes another source of inflammatory cytokines. This self-perpetuating cycle, gut leakiness, inflammation, insulin resistance, and fat accumulation, forms the biochemical foundation of metabolic syndrome. Leptin, another critical hormone in energy regulation, is similarly affected by inflammation. Produced by fat cells, leptin's role is to signal the brain that the body has sufficient energy stores, reducing appetite and increasing energy expenditure. Under normal conditions, rising leptin levels tell the hypothalamus to stop eating and start burning energy. However, when inflammation and insulin resistance are present, leptin signaling also becomes impaired. The brain no longer receives accurate messages from fat cells, so it perceives starvation even in the presence of excess fat. Appetite increases, energy expenditure drops, and the body becomes biologically primed to store even more fat. The result is metabolic inflexibility, the state in which the body loses its ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and fat for fuel. In a healthy system, the body easily shifts between energy sources depending on availability. During fasting or low carbohydrate intake, fat stores are mobilized, converted into ketones, and used efficiently for energy. But in an inflamed, insulin-resistant state, fat burning becomes blocked. The mitochondria, damaged by oxidative stress and cytokine exposure, cannot efficiently utilize fat as fuel. This is why individuals with chronic inflammation often experience fatigue and brain fog. Their cells are literally starved of energy despite abundant fuel reserves. Healing the gut is the most direct way to break this inflammatory chain reaction. The intestinal lining, when restored, prevents bacterial toxins from entering the bloodstream, reducing immune activation and lowering systemic inflammation. Beneficial gut bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which have powerful anti-inflammatory effects. Butyrate inhibits the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and enhances insulin sensitivity by improving mitochondrial function in muscle and liver cells. It also strengthens the integrity of the gut barrier itself, creating a feedback loop of healing rather than damage. As inflammation subsides, insulin signaling begins to normalize. Cells regain their ability to respond to insulin efficiently, allowing glucose to enter and be used for energy rather than being stored as fat. Blood sugar levels stabilize, reducing the need for constant insulin release. In this state, the pancreas is no longer overworked and energy production becomes smooth and sustained. People often notice this shift through more stable energy levels, reduced cravings, and improved mental clarity, clear signs that their metabolism is regaining flexibility. Rebalancing the microbiome further enhances this process. Different bacterial species influence metabolism in distinct ways. For example, an overgrowth of certain Firmicutes bacteria has been associated with increased calorie extraction from food, while Bacteroidetes species tend to favor leanness. A diverse, balanced microbiome promotes efficient digestion and optimal nutrient absorption without triggering inflammation. It also influences the production of gut hormones like GLP-1 and PYY, which improve satiety and insulin sensitivity. This explains why individuals who restore microbial balance often find that their appetite naturally regulates without conscious calorie restriction. In practical terms, reducing inflammation and restoring metabolic flexibility involves both subtraction and addition. The first step is removing the irritants that perpetuate gut damage: refined sugars, processed oils, alcohol, and chemical additives. These foods not only harm the gut lining but also feed pathogenic bacteria that drive inflammation. Replacing them with anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense foods provides the body with the building blocks for repair. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish, antioxidants from colorful vegetables, and polyphenols from green tea or berries all reduce oxidative stress and modulate immune activity. Equally important is supporting the body's natural detoxification pathways. When the liver and lymphatic system are burdened with inflammatory waste, the healing process slows. Adequate hydration, deep breathing, and gentle physical activity all aid in the removal of metabolic byproducts. Sleep also plays a vital role. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, which supports tissue repair and promotes fat burning. Poor sleep, by contrast, elevates cortisol and blood sugar, undoing much of the progress made through diet and lifestyle. Once inflammation is lowered and insulin sensitivity restored, the body regains its metabolic agility. Fat stores become accessible once again, and energy production shifts toward efficiency rather than conservation. Individuals often describe this as feeling switched back on. Their body finally responds as it should, using fat for fuel rather than hoarding it. Hunger diminishes, energy stabilizes, and weight begins to normalize without extreme measures. The science of metabolism reveals that the gut is not a passive participant, but a master regulator. When it's inflamed, every metabolic pathway suffers. When it's healed, those same pathways operate with precision and vitality. Restoring gut integrity, calming inflammation, and nurturing microbial diversity are the keys to reactivating metabolic flexibility, the natural state in which the body effortlessly moves between burning carbohydrates and fat for energy. In this balanced state, health, energy, and sustainable weight become the inevitable outcomes of a system working in harmony rather than struggle. Hormones act as the body's internal communication system, coordinating metabolism, appetite, mood, and energy. When these chemical messengers are balanced, the body operates efficiently, burning fuel cleanly, maintaining a healthy weight, and keeping cravings under control. But when chronic inflammation or gut dysfunction enters the picture, this communication system becomes scrambled. The result is hormonal chaos, uncontrolled hunger, stress-related eating, erratic energy levels, and stubborn fat accumulation. The gut, as both a barrier and a signaling hub, plays a decisive role in maintaining this delicate hormonal balance. When the gut lining is damaged and becomes permeable, toxins and bacterial fragments enter the bloodstream, triggering an immune response that elevates systemic inflammation. This inflammatory state disrupts nearly every hormone network. One of the first to be affected is insulin, the hormone responsible for regulating blood sugar. Under normal circumstances, insulin rises after a meal to move glucose into cells for energy. However, chronic inflammation interferes with insulin's signaling at the cellular level, forcing the pancreas to produce more to achieve the same effect. Over time, this leads to insulin resistance, where the body remains awash with insulin, but cells are unable to use it properly. The outcome is blood sugar instability, energy crashes, and a persistent drive to consume sugary foods to restore balance. Elevated insulin levels also block fat burning. Insulin's presence tells the body that there is ample energy available from carbohydrates, so it suppresses the release of stored fat from adipose tissue. As long as insulin remains high, fat loss becomes nearly impossible. It also affects leptin, the hormone that communicates satiety to the brain. When both insulin and leptin signaling are disrupted, the body exists in a constant state of hunger and fatigue, seeking quick sources of energy despite having stored fat that it cannot access. Another hormone profoundly influenced by gut health is cortisol. The body's primary stress hormone, produced by the adrenal glands. Cortisol helps regulate energy and inflammation in response to stress. In short bursts, it's beneficial, keeping us alert and helping the body recover. However, chronic inflammation from a leaky gut keeps cortisol levels persistently elevated. This constant stress signal drives fat storage, particularly around the abdomen, and worsens insulin resistance. High cortisol also breaks down muscle tissue to release glucose, further destabilizing blood sugar levels. The end result is a body trapped in a state of stress and energy depletion. Cortisol dysregulation also affects sleep and appetite. When cortisol remains high into the evening, it prevents restorative sleep and raises ghrelin, the hunger hormone secreted by the stomach. Ghrelin tells the brain it's time to eat, and its levels rise when the body perceives stress or energy deficit. In an inflamed, cortisol-driven state, ghrelin surges erratically, leading to nighttime snacking or uncontrollable cravings for sugar and processed carbohydrates. Meanwhile, leptin, which normally signals fullness, is suppressed. The combination of high ghrelin and low leptin creates the perfect storm for overeating and weight gain. Estrogen, too, is intricately connected to gut health. The body recycles and regulates estrogen through the gut-liver axis. Beneficial bacteria produce enzymes that help metabolize estrogen into safe, usable forms, while the liver packages excess estrogen for elimination. However, when the microbiome becomes imbalanced, a group of bacteria known as the strobolome is disrupted. This allows estrogen to be reabsorbed rather than excreted, leading to estrogen dominance, a state characterized by water retention, bloating, mood swings, and fat accumulation, particularly around the hips and thighs. The same process can occur in men, leading to reduced testosterone levels and increased belly fat. A healthy microbiome, therefore, plays a crucial role in keeping estrogen metabolism balanced and preventing hormonal weight gain. Repairing the gut restores harmony to these interconnected systems. The first step is to remove the foods and substances that perpetuate inflammation. Refined sugars, industrial oils, gluten, and alcohol. These irritants damage the gut lining and feed harmful bacteria that release inflammatory toxins. Replacing them with anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense foods allows the intestinal barrier to heal. Omega-3 fatty acids from oily fish, antioxidants from colorful vegetables, and phytonutrients from herbs and spices such as turmeric, ginger, and rosemary reduce oxidative stress and support detoxification. Adequate protein intake is equally important for gut repair and hormonal stability. The amino acid glutamine, for example, serves as the primary fuel for intestinal cells, helping to rebuild the mucosal layer that prevents leaky gut. Protein also stabilizes blood sugar by slowing the absorption of carbohydrates, preventing the spikes and crashes that trigger insulin surges and sugar craving. A diet that includes high-quality protein sources, eggs, grass-fed meat, fish, and collagen-rich broths, provides the raw materials needed for both gut and hormonal repair. Probiotics and prebiotics form the next cornerstone of hormonal balance. Probiotics introduce beneficial bacteria that restore microbial diversity and outcompete pathogenic species. As these microbes recolonize the gut, they begin producing short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, which have direct anti-inflammatory and hormone-regulating effects. Butyrate enhances insulin sensitivity, supports leptin signaling, and calms the HPA axis, reducing excess cortisol. Prebiotics, fibers found in foods like onions, garlic, leeks, asparagus, and green bananas feed these beneficial microbes, allowing them to thrive and continue producing their healing metabolites. Balancing cortisol also requires lifestyle intervention. The gut-brain axis operates in both directions. Chronic psychological stress can harm the gut just as much as gut inflammation can amplify stress. Practices that activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Deep breathing, meditation, yoga, or simply spending time outdoors lower cortisol levels and improve digestion. Restorative sleep is another vital factor. During sleep, The body recalibrates hormonal systems, clears inflammatory waste, and repairs tissue. Poor sleep, by contrast, raises cortisol and ghrelin while suppressing leptin, perpetuating cravings and fatigue. Hydration and mineral balance are often overlooked but essential. Proper hydration supports the transport of nutrients and the elimination of toxins, while minerals such as magnesium and zinc play crucial roles in insulin sensitivity and stress regulation. A body that is dehydrated or depleted of key minerals cannot efficiently regulate its hormones, no matter how perfect the diet may appear. As the gut heals and inflammation subsides, hormonal communication begins to normalize, insulin and leptin regain sensitivity, cortisol stabilizes into a natural daily rhythm, ghrelin levels return to balance, and estrogen metabolism becomes efficient once more. Cravings for sugar and processed foods fade because the body is no longer trapped in energy instability. The brain no longer interprets every stress signal as hunger, and the drive to eat becomes guided by genuine energy needs rather than hormonal confusion. The transformation often feels profound. Energy stabilizes, mood improves, and fat begins to melt away without conscious restriction. These changes are not the result of willpower, but of physiology working as it was designed to. The gut, when healed, orchestrates hormonal balance with precision, allowing the body to shift from stress and storage to repair and renewal. Long-term metabolic health depends on this restoration, not through external manipulation of hormones, but by addressing their root regulator, the integrity and balance of the gut itself. Healing the gut is not about quick fixes or trendy cleanses. It is about returning to biological basics. The gut thrives on real food, rhythm, and rest. When these three are re-established, the gut lining begins to repair, inflammation subsides, and metabolism normalizes. In clinical practice, this process can happen more quickly than most expect, often within weeks, when a structured, evidence-based approach is followed. The goal is to restore the intestinal barrier, rebalance the microbiome, and calm systemic inflammation so that the body can shift naturally from survival mode to repair and regeneration. The foundation of any gut healing plan is diet. Food is information, not just fuel, and every bite either strengthens or weakens the gut lining. Anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense foods provide the raw materials for repair while stabilizing blood sugar and reducing the immune load. Bone broth, for example, is rich in collagen, gelatin, and amino acids such as glutamine and glycine. These compounds are essential for sealing microscopic gaps in the intestinal wall and rebuilding the mucosal layer that protects against bacterial invasion. Sipping warm bone broth daily can soothe an inflamed digestive tract and promote tissue regeneration. Oily fish such as salmon, sardines, and mackerel supply omega-3 fatty acids, which are powerful anti-inflammatory agents. Omega-3s help rebalance the immune system by reducing the production of inflammatory cytokines and supporting the integrity of cell membranes. A few servings per week can significantly reduce gut inflammation while enhancing the diversity of beneficial gut bacteria. For those who don't consume fish, high-quality algae oil or flaxseed oil can offer similar benefits. Fermented foods are another cornerstone of gut restoration. Sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and unsweetened yogurt introduce living microorganisms that repopulate the intestines with beneficial bacteria. These probiotics help displace pathogenic species, restore microbial balance, and produce short-chain fatty acids such as bitterate, which nourish the gut lining and regulate immune activity. Even small daily portions of fermented vegetables can have measurable effects on gut diversity and inflammation. Equally vital are fiber-rich plants, which act as prebiotics, food for beneficial microbes. Vegetables such as leeks, onions, asparagus, and Jerusalem artichokes contain inulin and resistant starches that feed bacteria in the colon, encouraging them to produce butyrate. Berries, leafy greens, and cruciferous vegetables add antioxidants that protect intestinal cells from oxidative stress. The variety of plant fibers is more important than sheer quantity. Each type supports different bacterial species, and diversity in plant intake translates directly into diversity within the microbiome. Protein is often underemphasized in gut healing discussions, yet it is indispensable. Amino acids serve as building blocks for every structure in the body, including the epithelial cells of the gut lining. A moderate intake of high-quality protein, such as eggs, grass-fed meat, poultry, and fish, ensures that the body has what it needs for tissue regeneration and enzyme production. For individuals with severe digestive issues, slow, Cooked meats and collagen powders may be better tolerated during the initial repair phase, while nourishment is key, so is the removal of gut disruptors. The modern diet is rife with substances that damage the gut barrier and fuel dysbiosis. Processed foods are loaded with additives, such as emulsifiers and preservatives that strip away the gut's protective mucus layer. Refined sugars and artificial sweeteners alter microbial balance, feeding harmful bacteria and suppressing beneficial strains. Alcohol irritates the intestinal lining and increases permeability, while seed oils like soybean and canola oil promote systemic inflammation through excess omega-6 fatty acids. Eliminating these disruptors gives the gut the breathing space it needs to heal. Hydration plays a surprisingly large role in gut repair. The mucosal barrier depends on adequate water to maintain its viscosity and function. Herbal teas, mineral water, and electrolyte balanced fluids support this protective layer. Dehydration, even mild, can slow digestion and impair nutrient absorption. Including mineral-rich broths and trace salts helps replenish essential electrolytes that facilitate enzymatic repair processes within the gut lining. Beyond food, lifestyle factors determine how effectively healing occurs. The gut is exquisitely sensitive to stress. Chronic activation of the stress response diverts energy away from digestion and weakens immune surveillance within the gut wall. Managing stress is therefore as crucial as diet. Techniques such as diaphragmatic breathing, mindfulness, and gentle yoga lower cortisol levels and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest and digest mode. Even short daily practices can dramatically improve gut motility and repair capacity. Sleep is another non-negotiable pillar. During deep sleep, the body engages in repair and detoxification, including the regeneration of gut tissue and microbial rebalancing. Poor sleep disrupts circadian rhythms, elevates cortisol, and impairs glucose metabolism, all of which hinder gut recovery. Establishing consistent sleep-wake patterns, minimizing blue light exposure before bed, and ensuring a cool, dark sleep environment can enhance the restorative effects of rest. Gentle movement supports both gut motility and microbial diversity. Activities such as walking, cycling, and swimming improve blood flow to the intestines, stimulate lymphatic drainage, and encourage regular bowel movements, which are essential for toxin elimination. Overly intense exercise, however, can elevate cortisol and counteract progress, particularly in the early phases of healing. The emphasis should be on consistency and balance rather than intensity. Intermittent fasting can further accelerate gut repair by allowing the digestive system time to rest and regenerate. Short fasting windows, such as 12 to 14 hours overnight, give intestinal cells an opportunity to repair tight junctions and reduce inflammation. Fasting also promotes autophagy, a cellular cleansing process that removes damaged components and strengthens metabolic function. For individuals already struggling with low energy or adrenal stress, fasting should be approached gently, always in conjunction with nutrient-rich meals and adequate hydration. Supplements can complement but never replace foundational habits. L-glutamine, zinc carnosine, and omega-3 oils are among the most evidence-based supports for gut healing. Glutamine directly fuels enterocytes, zinc strengthens mucosal immunity, and omega-3s calm inflammation at the cellular level. However, these should be viewed as temporary tools rather than long-term crutches. The ultimate goal is to build resilience through food and lifestyle. Healing the gut requires patience and consistency. Most people begin to notice changes within a few weeks: less bloating, improved energy, more stable mood. Over time, as the gut lining seals and the microbiome regains balance, inflammation recedes and metabolism becomes more efficient. Hormonal systems recalibrate and the body transitions from energy storage to energy production. Weight stabilizes naturally without strict calorie restriction, and vitality returns. The body resumes its natural rhythm. The process is simple but profound. Remove what harms, replenish what heals, and support the body's innate intelligence. The gut is remarkably self-repairing when given the right environment. Through nutrient-dense food, mindful living, quality rest, and calm rhythm, the intestinal barrier restores its strength, the microbiome regains harmony, and the entire body moves from survival back to thriving health. Long-term health is never the result of restriction, calorie counting, or endless willpower. It is the natural consequence of a body that works the way it was designed to. Once the gut is healed and inflammation is brought under control, everything else begins to fall into place. Weight stabilizes, energy returns, mental clarity improves, and resilience to illness strengthens. The body is not inherently broken. It has simply been operating under biological stress for too long. By removing that stress through gut repair, we restore the natural intelligence that governs metabolism, immunity, and hormonal balance. Sustainable weight loss begins when the body stops perceiving starvation or danger. Chronic inflammation and dysbiosis create a biological signal of threat, pushing the body into energy conservation mode. In this state, metabolism slows, fat storage increases, and fatigue sets in. When the gut is healed, inflammation subsides, and the nervous system can finally shift from fight or flight to rest and repair. Insulin sensitivity improves, appetite hormones rebalance, and fat stores are gradually mobilized for energy rather than hoarded for survival. This shift happens not through deprivation, but through restoration. Healing the gut also rebalances the immune system, which is central to long-term health. Nearly 70% of the immune system resides in the gut, constantly monitoring what enters the body. When the intestinal barrier is compromised, the immune system becomes hyperactive, producing chronic low-grade inflammation that drains energy and accelerates aging. As the gut lining repairs, this immune overactivity quiets down. The result is fewer autoimmune flares, fewer infections, and greater resilience against everyday stressors. The body moves from a state of constant defense to one of calm vigilance, ready to respond appropriately when needed, but no longer stuck in inflammation mode. Hormonal balance follows naturally once the gut is restored. The microbiome communicates directly with endocrine organs, including the thyroid, adrenal glands, and ovaries. When gut bacteria are balanced, they regulate estrogen metabolism, reduce cortisol excess, and support thyroid hormone conversion. This leads to better energy regulation, stable moods, and easier weight management. Many people who have struggled with stubborn belly fat, fatigue, or mood swings for years often find that these symptoms begin to fade once their gut ecosystem stabilizes. What they experience is not just symptom relief, but a recalibration of the entire hormonal network. Energy restoration is another hallmark of gut-driven transformation. A healthy gut extracts nutrients efficiently, supports mitochondrial function, and minimizes the energy cost of inflammation. Instead of feeling tired after meals or dependent on caffeine, the body begins to generate steady, sustained energy throughout the day. This renewed vitality reflects the improved efficiency of cellular metabolism, a direct result of reduced inflammation and improved nutrient absorption. It's not about more energy input, it's about less energy waste. Mental clarity and emotional stability also improve as the gut-brain axis heals. The gut produces around 90% of the body's serotonin and a large portion of dopamine and GABA, neurotransmitters essential for mood regulation and motivation. When the gut microbiome is disrupted, these chemicals become imbalanced, leading to anxiety, irritability, or brain fog. Restoring microbial diversity supports balanced neurotransmitter production, creating a more stable, calm, and focused mental state. This is one reason why gut healing often feels like emotional healing too. The mind clears as the gut recovers. The physical changes that follow are profound but gradual. As inflammation resolves and the microbiome strengthens, the body naturally gravitates toward its optimal weight. Fat burning becomes efficient, muscles repair more easily, and cravings diminish. The constant tug of war with food disappears because hunger signals become accurate and responsive again. People often describe it as freedom from fatigue, from cravings, from the emotional weight of trying to control their bodies. It is the feeling of returning to biological balance. Over time, these benefits compound. A well-functioning gut protects against chronic diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular issues, and autoimmune disorders. The anti-inflammatory metabolites produced by beneficial gut bacteria, such as butyrate and propionate, regulate blood pressure, modulate immune function, and even influence gene expression related to aging. This means that gut repair does more than aid weight loss. It extends health span, the years of life spent in good health. Longevity is not about living longer in decline, but thriving longer in vitality, and the gut is at the core of that transformation. Long-term resilience also depends on lifestyle consistency. Once the gut has healed, maintaining its integrity requires ongoing respect for the body's natural rhythms. That means continuing to prioritize nutrient-dense foods, managing stress, sleeping deeply, and avoiding the dietary and environmental toxins that originally caused damage. Occasional indulgences or disruptions are not harmful when the foundation is strong. The body can recover swiftly because its repair mechanisms are intact. The key is not perfection, but awareness and consistency. Healing the gut creates a profound psychological shift as well. Many people move from fear-based control over their diet to trust in their body's signals. Instead of counting calories or macros, they learn to listen, to eat when hungry, stop when satisfied, rest when tired, and move when energized. This intuitive connection is a hallmark of a well-functioning biology. When the gut and brain communicate effectively, decisions around food and lifestyle become effortless rather than forced. This is the true end of the dieting cycle, not another set of rules, but a reconnection to internal wisdom. In practical terms, maintaining gut health long-term means continuing to feed beneficial bacteria through a varied diet rich in fiber, polyphenols, and fermented foods. Periodic fasting, moderate exercise, and exposure to nature further support microbial diversity. Managing emotional stress remains essential, as chronic stress is one of the most potent disruptors of gut balance. Simple daily practices like deep breathing, gratitude, or short walks outdoors can reinforce the mind-gut connection and prevent regression into old inflammatory patterns. The transformation that follows is both physical and systemic. A once sluggish metabolism becomes flexible and efficient. The immune system becomes responsive rather than reactive. Hormones stabilize, sleep deepens, and mood lightens. Fatigue gives way to energy, and weight settles naturally without struggle. This is not magic, it is physiology restored. The human body, when given what it needs, heals itself. Ultimately, true health is not about fighting the body, but understanding it. Every chronic symptom, whether fatigue, cravings, or stubborn fat, is a message pointing back to imbalance, most often beginning in the gut. When we respond to those messages with nourishment, rest, and care, the entire system recalibrates. Healing the gut is not just a phase of recovery, it is the foundation of lifelong health, resilience, and vitality. Once this foundation is strong, weight loss becomes effortless, energy becomes abundant, and health becomes self-sustaining, not through willpower, but through alignment with the body's natural design.